Lord, if you give me the victory, whatever comes out of my house, I'll offer to you as a sacrificial burnt offering. Where would he get that weird theological thought from?
Moses, when he was teaching...
No, Moses didn't teach sacrificing people. He says, whatever comes out of the house, not the barn.
He got it from the land of Tob in the sermon.
Okay, this is what they did back then in some of the nations around and the peoples around. They sacrificed their children. They had human sacrifices. That's what they did. And he says, I'll perform a human sacrifice if you give me the victory. He said that to God. I venture to say probably more of us here than we realize. We get a lot of our theological understanding from the world, and not from God.
A lot of our values.
A lot of our values are understanding of God, understanding of how to do life from the world. This is the one God's Spirit came on. And Jephthah was off to fight the Ammonites. God gave them to him. He won. He beat them soundly, all the way from, I don't even know how to say that one. Aurora to the area around Minnith, as far as Abel Keramim. 20 cities. A massacre. Ammonites brought to their knees by the people of Israel. Jephthah came home to Mizpah. His daughter ran from the house to welcome him home, dancing the tambourines. She was his only child. He had no son or daughter except her. Then he realized who it was, and he ripped his clothes. What's the ripping of the clothes mean?
Grief.
It's mourning. Because why? She's the one that's got to die. He's got to put her out as a human sacrifice. Adar's daughter, I'm dirt, I'm despicable, my heart is torn to shreds, I made a vow to God and I can't take it back. The story goes on.
So there were two choices. It was either the daughter or the wife, right? Unless he had some animals.
Could have been a servant, could have been a servant, could have been a dog come out, I guess. She said, Dear Father, if you made a vow to God, do to me what you vowed. God did his part and saved you from your Ammonite enemies. The daughter upholds. These are pretty sound people. You got to do what you got to do. But then she said to her father, but let this one thing be done for me. Give me 2 months to wander through the hills and lend my virginity, since I will never marry, I and my dear friends. I want 2 months. With my friends, I want to prepare. Oh yes, go, he said. He sent her off for 2 months. She and her dear friends went along the hills, lamenting that she would never marry. At the end of the 2 months, she came back to her father. He fulfilled the vow with her that he had made. She had never slept with a man. It became a custom of Israel. For 4 days every year, the young women of Israel went out to mourn for the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite. What a story. What do you think about this story? What do you think? What do you think God's judgment is on a man like Jephthah who sacrificed his daughter? We talked here, remember about Jessica Ann Lieberger. She died at the hands of her father. How about Jephthah? What do you think God's judgment is on a man like Jephthah?
Well, there's always this theme in the Bible that with knowledge comes responsibility. And I'm not sure he had a whole lot of knowledge.
Let's add another scripture. Jephthah is mentioned in the New Testament. In Hebrews chapter 11.
He had faith.
In the Hall of Fame of Faith. He says, I could go on, says the author of Hebrews, but I've run out of time. There are so many more. Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, the prophets. Through acts of faith, they toppled kingdoms, made justice work, took the promises for them. People were protected from lions, fires, sword thrusts, turned disadvantage to advantage, won battles, routed alien armies. He's mentioned, he made it to heaven. Old Jephthah, man, he made a major error, didn't he? He's in the kingdom. So what's the lesson here? Lesson number one, God overlooks ignorance, but He doesn't overlook unbelief.
Wow.
God sometimes looks beyond our theological stupidity because He values trust and belief in Him more. What do you think? Who among us will say, oh, I've got all the understanding of God racked up? You know, one of the danger signs of a cult is that we have the secret knowledge that nobody else has. We're more special than anyone else.
He never accuses anyone of having too much faith.
God overlooks ignorance, but He doesn't overlook unbelief. What do you think, folks? So you don't need good theology to believe. This guy believed. He was a believer, even though he got kicked out of his home. Man, that guy had a faith, and God's Spirit came on him, and he just trusted. How about thought number two? Belief without strong theology can do great damage. If you have a deep faith in God and a shallow theology, you'll be giving yourself to superficiality and nonsense, and you can do great damage to yourself and others. It's good to have good theology, folks. Why? You may be hurting yourself and you don't even know it. You may be hurting those around you and you don't even know it. You may be hindering them, damaging them, damaging their souls. So, I like what Hayden Robinson says, great faith with good theology can be a benefit and a blessing to you and God's people. Love God with all your heart and with all your soul, but love Him with your mind as well. So great faith and good theology. We need both of those. I've heard people say, look, you know, Ron, this theology stuff, you know, I'm not a theologian. I think people need to have an experience with God. I think people need to know how to relate to Him. And so what if I'm just into helping people when they come on Sunday morning to have an experience. I don't have this much time for theology. Imagine if you visit a doctor and you say to the doctor, I have a pain in my stomach. And the doctor says, well, you need to know I don't pay much attention to medicine. I took that stuff at school, but I haven't paid much attention to it. What I'm into is bedside manner. I want people to feel comfortable around me. Why don't we just cut you open and see what's inside? Sometimes we throw theology out. No, I don't understand God, so I don't even need to pick up the Bible anyway. Every time I pick it up, I really can't get anything much out of it anyway, so press in. Anything you're really interested in, you'll figure it out eventually. Press in. There are so many helps on understanding God and understanding the Bible. But in our own way, when we're ignorant, we don't understand how much maybe we're hindering ourselves and everyone around us because of our lack of really knowing God. think we all know that maps are important. I'm not sure how to get there. Let's get in the car and drive. We need a map. That's what the Bible is, folks. It's a theological map to help us get through and see things correctly. Sometimes, I confess, it takes some study. It takes some time to get beyond ourselves, to really get into the Word. But it's well worth it. Great faith and good theology. So, knowing that these are the great faith, good theology, what will help you grow in your faith? Because that's one of the problems. You can have maybe good theology, but little faith. Or maybe you have great faith, but a little understanding of God. We need both of these to grow. What will help you grow in your understanding of God? What's going to help you grow in your understanding of God? So, what I'd like you to do is talk to your neighbor, and then we'll just all pray together. Which, you could talk about what you thought about what we talked about today, But I would like to also push it out. Which of these areas do you struggle with? Faith, primarily, or your understanding of God? So let's just talk with one another, and then we'll pray.